Welcome back to the Teach Them Diligently podcast. I am your host, Leslie Nunnery, and I am so grateful that you've chosen to join me here today. We're talking about a topic that I think all of us struggle with, no matter where we are in our homeschooling career or even in our parenting career, and that is this kind of midwinter. Not even mid is early winter, but midwinter burnout. It seems like February is just the hardest month. Early March, late February, early March is just really, really difficult to get through for a lot of reasons. So we're going to talk about that today, and we're going to go through some strategies and some mindset tweaks that may help this become a much easier season to get through. So don't leave, stay with us because we've got a lot of great things to talk about. Before we dive in, though, I want to make sure that I invite you personally once again to join us at a Teach Them Diligently event this spring. Our first event is coming up March 20th through 22nd in Dayton, Ohio. We'll then be in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, Branson, Missouri, and Lynchburg, Virginia at Liberty University for 3-day celebrations of missional homeschooling and just the families who are focused on doing that. We will give you some great content, amazing fellowship, fabulous opportunities, and access to unbelievable resources all at those events. So they really are something that would be so good for your family to attend. I invite you to join us there. Go to teachthemdiligently.net/events, and you can find out all of the information about those events, including what's offered, what the schedule is, and how you can get your tickets. So again, go to teachthemdiligently.net/events and get your tickets now. We cannot wait to see you there. Before we dive into this week's content, I do want to invite you to subscribe to our podcast if you haven't done that yet. We have just great episodes that come out, and every single week we are giving you details and information that is specifically designed to help you parent biblically and homeschool missionally. And so I don't want you to miss out on a single one of those episodes. So if you'll go to your favorite podcast provider, click subscribe. That way you won't get behind. You'll know when we have a new episode come out. And then we sure would be grateful if you could leave us a 5-star rating and a review. Not only does it encourage our hearts that what we are sharing is actually important to you, that it is impactful, but it also gives us a greater platform to try to reach other families. It is our prayer that we are able to reach families all around the world with just the encouragement of seeing that what God has called you to do is not only doable, but it's life-giving. And so you can really partner with us by subscribing to the podcast, sharing it with your friends, and then leaving us a 5-star rating and review. We would be incredibly grateful for that. Now, though, for the next few minutes, I want to talk to you all about surviving that mid-year homeschool burnout. I remember so much when I was in the throes of it, when the days would get gray, the nights are long because it's dark all the time. It's damp, it's cold. You don't really want to go outside as much. And it just becomes drudgery to even do, the normal life stuff, let alone tack on homeschooling above that. And that's why I really truly believe that mid-February to early to mid-March is just the hardest time to get through. The holidays are over. Spring feels like it's so far away, and it's hard to muster up the encouragement or the enthusiasm that we need to approach all of our days. So I just wanted to first of all let you know you're not alone in this. This is a very common thing. And so today we're going to look at ways to reset, refocus, and renew your heart for the calling that God has given you so that you can look at this in a different way. You can hopefully experience that joy again that may be a little fleeting right now. So why is there this mid-year burnout? What are the causes for it? And I've thought of quite a few. Probably not going to hit all of them, obviously, but some of these may resonate with you. You may feel like, oh, that actually describes what I feel like I'm feeling. So some of the causes for this mid-year burnout are, you've been homeschooling for a long time. We took a little bit of a break at Christmas time, right? But for the most part, since September, you've been in homeschool mode. Now we're in February. It's dark, it's dreary, and you're just kind of weary from it. It's a lot. And remember, as a homeschooling mom or dad, you are bringing basically a full-time position, a full-time job of teacher into everything else that you're trying to do. And so it can be overwhelming. It can be exhausting. And that can wear you out after a while. So we're going to discuss some strategies for kind of overcoming that in a few minutes. Other reasons that you may be feeling this is you're not staying on track. I know a lot of times I would get to this part of the year and have kind of a minor freak out because I was off the schedule that I had kind of envisioned. My curriculum wasn't doing all that I wanted it to. I just was starting to realize, we're getting closer to the end of the year and I feel like I have miles to go before we get there. And this overwhelm just kind of comes upon you, and it can threaten to just take all your joy away, make you anxious, all of these things. So that is another reason that this time of year can feel so heavy and so long and just not any fun anymore. A third reason is just a lack of energy. God gave us the winter season to slow down some. We are not outside. We're not as active. That's all by design. God's rhythm of these seasons that he's given us is good because everything that he did is good. But a lot of times, especially in our 24/7 lights inside, constant media, all this stuff world, it's hard to remember that we are in a season where slowing down is actually a good thing. That is a gift from God. And so as we're trying to keep up and keep the same pace, even though everything that God has created, all the weather, all the times and everything is working against us, that can make you weary. It can make you have a lack of excitement. Everything can feel stale because you really are kind of trying to wedge this square peg in a round hole, when we should be just kind of leaning in and accepting this is a different time of year and we should approach it differently. That leads into the winter blues that so many people talk about. I remember when I was growing up, my grandmother always got the winter blues. I'm from Kentucky originally, so Eastern Kentucky is where my grandmother lived, and I just didn't understand it. I had moved south into South Carolina when I was in second grade, so our winters weren't quite the same as Eastern Kentucky was. But then when my three oldest ones were very, very little, I didn't have my fourth child yet, we moved to Lexington, Kentucky for a couple of years, and I had such an appreciation for the winter blues that she struggled from because when we lived in Lexington, the sky was gray for months. It was like, it didn't snow that much. It rained a lot. It was just kind of nondescript and blah. And that can really wear on you. So those winter blues are actually really a thing. And we've got to keep that in mind, because if we're fighting against the winter blues, but we're not actually calling it that, and we're only looking at the fact that we just don't have the energy or the desire to do anything anymore, we're kind of trying to cure the wrong thing. So we want to make sure that our focus is on what's really the cause here. It's just like in anything that we talk about here at Teach Them Diligently, you look for the root and not just the leaves, not just what you can see, so that you can deal with it at the root cause. And those winter blues really are a very, very big thing. And then finally, another thing that bites us all year long is just this comparison trap that we fall into. It's easy and very tempting to believe that other families have it all together. They're not struggling with these mid-season, midwinter blues. This is all me. I need to just kind of struggle through it. I got to get my act together. And we're just putting more and more weight on ourselves in a way that does not allow us to kind of see the light of day there. And it makes all of these things much, much worse. But I want to encourage you to remember that burnout often happens when we are laser focused on the daily grind and we lose sight of the bigger mission of homeschooling, and that is discipleship, relationships, pointing our children to Christ. Once again, the primary answer to overcoming this is the primary answer to overcoming any kind of issues that you have within your home, and that is to focus on your primary mission. God has called you to parent your children biblically. He has given you all kinds of information. I go through a lot of that in the Teach Them Diligently book. And then He has given you just an amazing platform and an amazing opportunity through homeschooling to take this tool, which is what homeschooling is. It's a tool for your greater mission of going for the hearts of your children. That's all in the Heart Schooling book. So you take this tool of homeschooling and you use it to strengthen relationships, to build a deeper faith, a faith that will stick with your kids no matter what comes into their lives, and to give them a great academic preparation to walk through whatever doors God has given them in the days ahead, or whatever doors God opens for them in the days ahead. So your mission should be actually life-giving, and it's so much more than just checking the boxes in your planner or getting through everything that a curriculum guide would tell you to. There's so much more to it, and this is a great season to really, really focus in on that. In fact, when we look at strategies here in just a second, we're going to talk about the opportunity that you have to mix things up a little bit during the season to really give yourself a lot more life as we are going through this down, dark, dreary time where your body is crying, this is not the same, this is not the same. Well, it's not. So we're going to talk about how we can actually enjoy this season rather than kind of fight against it and try to make it something it isn't. I want to give you, before we get to the strategies for overcoming it, I just want to give you 3 quick encouragements from God's word. If you are weary right now, if you are struggling with this right now, and these are passages that you know, but it's always good to be reminded, and especially when you're applying them to a specific context. So think of these verses that I'm going to share in context of you're kind of weary in homeschooling. You're kind of weary just in general right now. Here's what God's word says. First of all, He reminds us of His strength in our weakness. Isaiah 40:31 says, "But those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. They will mount up with wings as eagles." God is with you. God, and is as you hope, you rely, you wait on the Lord. He's going to give you strength. It doesn't have to be something that you manufacture in yourself. God's strength will hold you through. Homeschooling is, like I mentioned just a minute ago, such a great tool to help you accomplish the calling that God has given you, to parent your children biblically, to bring your kids to Him, to shepherd their hearts, give them a foundation for a faith that is their own. And as you wait on Him, as you hope in Him, rest in Him, He promises to give you strength over and over and over again. So you can trust and you can rest in the one who gives us strength, even in our weaknesses, even in our weariness. Matthew 11:28 through 30 tells us to rest in Him. That's where we see, all you who labor, come unto me, all you who labor and are heavy laden. I didn't, for whatever reason, write the verse down. But God will give you rest. We've got to let go of these burdens that we're putting on ourselves, unrealistic expectations. Those are just weighing us down. And God says, come to me. I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn of me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and I will give you rest for your souls. I want to encourage you through that to release the guilt of not doing enough, to not put arbitrary burdens on your shoulders when God is saying, my burden is easy, my yoke is light. So bring those burdens to Him. Really, really focus in on what God has called you to do, and pray that God will give you the vision and the wisdom to align yourself with Him so that you are just putting His yoke on you and not these heavy burdens of your own making. So with those two passages in mind, I want to just encourage you to do a quick check on your own heart. Is your weariness driven by a view of perfection? You know, you've got to get all this stuff in, you've got to check all the boxes, you've got to control things, whatever. Or are you seeking to fulfill your mission faithfully? You're looking for God to give you growth. You are resting and relying in Him. You're taking His yoke on you and learning of Him in this winter season rather than putting all these burdens of your own making on you. Um, it's so important that we don't try to do this anything, but especially anything that has to do with our mission. So, discipleship, homeschooling, don't try to do that in your own strength. It's so important as parents that are on mission that we draw nearer to God, that we learn of Him, we grow in Him, so um, that we can just overflow into the discipleship of our children, overflow what God is teaching us into the teaching, the educating of our children. It's so powerful and it's so natural. But so often, because we are adding all of this stuff in and we have all of these expectations that never change, even when the seasons do, we get really, really weary. So I want to encourage you with that. Now I want to give you just super quick some strategies that I believe will help you as you are waiting through this winter season. And hopefully these will give you some ideas, but also freedom to explore your own ideas, kind of put your own twist on this, because I'm just speaking as me. Your needs, your personality, things that would give you life maybe a little bit differently or different. But I hope that these open your eyes. The first thing that I would include or encourage you to do is to step back and assess. It is great to take a teacher in service day. Our public school counterparts do, our Christian school counterparts do. So give yourself an in service day or two or three or however many you need. Time to pause, to pray, to evaluate what's working and what's not. You may want to ask yourself, what's draining me right now? What is going on? And again, as you are asking yourself these things, prayerfully bring them to God. God, what is draining me? What am I doing that I'm not supposed to be? What burdens have I put on myself? Another question that you may want to prayerfully ask is, what excites my kids? What can I start doing now that is going to be so exciting for them that their excitement is going to overflow and give me more life? Where do we need a reset? What are the things that are just not working? We all get into those where we just feel like we're running through mud, and it's just not working for our family. Reset. Put them aside. Don't try to do that. Don't try to keep pushing through the mud, because that goes so far towards just sucking the life out of you, but it also can put a whole lot of friction in relationships that don't need to be there, because there's a lot of other ways that we can do things if we need to stop doing or readjust the way that we're approaching one thing. So step back and assess. A teacher in service day is a great time for that. If you are able to do that, where maybe your parents or sister or something like that, maybe you could swap off with another homeschool mom where she would keep all the kids for a day or two and then you would for a day or two, and you both get in service days where you can be alone, you can be quiet, you can be prayerful, you can gather your thoughts, you can journal, you can do whatever you need to do to kind of get to the root of what's causing you this strain and this stress in this season. Then after you do that, I challenge you, I urge you to simplify and prioritize. You do not have to do everything. And I'll say that again. You do not have to do everything. There may be elements of your curriculum that you just need to put a pin in and just not get there. You may look and you've got all of this stuff to do, and you can say, well, this is review, we'll do this, we'll do that, and pick and choose. But you don't have to do everything, and you may need to write that on a big old note card and stick it near where you do school, because you may have to remember that every day. Focus on the things that are truly important. And again, I talk about this extensively in the Heart School book and even more in the Heart School Parenting Intensive. How you discern what is essential and what is accessory. How do you discern what is missional, what is just mission centric to what God has called you to do, and what are those things that you can let go because they aren't as important? You really, really need to simplify and prioritize so that you can make it through any season of weariness. And it doesn't have to be just in this winter season. It could be a season of health struggle. It could be a season of change in your family, moving, new baby, whatever. Good or bad changes still require a lot of these same principles, because we tend to get weary in those seasons. So after you simplify and prioritize, another strategy that I would encourage you with is to change your routine. We did a ton of this when my kids were growing up. We would move from what we were doing normally to doing more unit studies or field trips or hands-on things. It I needed the mix up probably more than my kids did even. I needed to say, hey, we're pushing pause on this and we're all going to do this unit study about fill in the blanks, tornadoes that could be coming up in the spring, whatever it is. Um, we did a lot of those redirects and they learned so much and they were great relational times. We didn't lose any ground in their academics because we were still learning and we were still growing, but it gave me life to do something different and to pull everybody together and to do everything alike. When I was raising my or homeschooling my kids when they were younger, lap books were a big deal. And if you can find a lap book now, go find yourself a lap book. Lap books are so fun. And you have this great presentation piece that you can keep and look back on, or the kids can go and do a program for your in-laws or whatever it is. Lap books are just awesome. But changing your routine in any way will be so, so helpful for you. And then just really lean into the opportunity that you have as a homeschooler to have more cozy learning. Do more time reading together. Sit on the couch and read and chat and let those moments just draw out. If you have a fireplace, light the fire. Whatever it takes to create a cozy, warm environment. You are building memories. You are building relationships. And I have found, kind of now that I can look in my rearview mirror, I have found so often that the memories that we made and the stuff that we learned in those cozy learning times, which don't look anything like school, like what our mind says school should look like, desks and blah blah blah, all that stuff. These cozy learning times where we're cuddled up on the couch and we're just discussing things that we've read, those are the things that stuck with my children the most. So give yourself the freedom to enjoy those times. Our school got to the point where that was most of the time our entire morning during every season. And it was so life-giving to all of us. And it created in my kids a love of learning and the understanding of when you don't know something, go find it out. Go dig in. This is fun. This is great. So this is what you are giving to your kids. Couple of other things just real quick. It's always good to get outside and move. So if there's any way for you to get outside where you are, get outside, play with your kids, allow the movement to give you life. And also, again, because everything that we're doing is relational, allow yourself to enjoy the relationships that you're building and strengthening as you're playing with your kids outside. Such a great thing. Movement for our kids is so important. I actually have done a 365 video about this and some other things, but exercise, movement, getting their heart rate up, actually getting those wiggles out, gives them the ability to learn so much better for hours after. So there's a lot of science that backs up. Not only is it good for us to get outside, get the sunlight and all that stuff, the movement, the change, all of that, but it's really good for their ability to learn. And then finally, lean into community. Connect with us in Teach Them Diligently 365. We would love to have you there. That is, I think, the best community of Christian homeschool moms on the planet because they are all missional in focus. We have Bible studies going on there. And because you are so similar in mindset and in passion, you're going to find that it creates a really natural community for you, even though they aren't right there. So I'm going to leave you information on 365 because I don't want to turn this into a commercial for it, but I really do believe that that would be so good for you right now, but all year round. It's just a great time. We're about to start a new small group Bible study. And we've got those going on throughout the year where you can connect with 7 to 10 other ladies and just do a quick 30 to 45 day Bible study together, sharing what you've learned, growing together, talking about challenges. It's just a great thing. But lean into community. If it's not in 365, find a local community. Go on and get your tickets to join us at Teach Them Diligently. You have community to look forward to. There are a whole lot of ways to do it. It's also important to involve your kids in this, or it's really helpful. It's exciting. It's fun. So ask your kids, what do you love about homeschooling? I think it would be life-giving to you to hear their perspective because as moms and dads, we tend to be really critical of ourselves. But for our kids, what they're taking away is not all the mistakes that we're making. It's not all the things that we're judging ourselves for. They are noticing other things. And to actually hear that and to hear their perspective is super helpful for us as parents. Give your kids the opportunity to take a hand in the planning. Maybe you want to incorporate a fun Friday and let them each pick a theme for that. Maybe you want to say, okay, this week we're learning what's really, really important to Johnny, and Johnny wants to learn all about spiders or whatever. And so you just deep dive into these different things that are really, really interesting to your kids, and you do it all together. Just a really fun way to start to mix up your homeschool routine and to really get them involved. And then, as they get older, give them ownership in problem solving as well. Ask them what time of day is better for them to do different things. When do you feel like you do math best? Is it better for you in the morning, or do you do it better after lunch? What kind of things, or what do you think we could do that would make learning more fun for you? Do you have any ideas on that? What do you want to learn this spring? Is there anything that you've just really, really been interested in, and we can maybe deep dive and learn more about it? Encouraging your kids to give you input like that makes this much more of a family endeavor. And so you're working together instead of working against one another, and it changes the atmosphere within your homeschool so, so much. So as we're out of time here, as we are kind of closing down, I want to remind you that burnout is very real. What you are experiencing is very, very real. But there is hope. God's word gives us hope. We are told to wait on the Lord, to cast our cares on him, to take his yoke upon us. There is community that is ready to grow alongside of you. You are able to focus on your mission and to mix things up and just really find the power of renewing your soul that way. And remember that God has called you to this. You are called to parent your children biblically. You've been called to use homeschooling as a great tool to accomplish that. And God promises he will never leave you nor forsake you. He will equip you to do what he has called you to do. You're not on your own, and it is not all up to you. Rest in him. So I challenge you, take something that you've heard in this podcast and put it into action this week. You can do multiple things, but at least promise, make a vow that you will do one of these things. Tell me what it is. Send me a message. Send me an email or a comment on this reel, the podcast post on social media or something. Tell me what you're going to try and then follow up. Tell me how it worked. What kind of stuff did you learn from this? And then I encourage you to just really start praying and refreshing the things that you're praying over and refreshing the things that you're doing within your homeschool. I promise you, it will be such a good exercise for you to do. So if you have found anything to be encouraging, challenging, helpful in this, I ask you to please share this episode with your friends because they're going through the same kind of burnout that you are. They are struggling with the same thing. And maybe if you all get the same basic ideas, you can start working together in community, like we noted, to come out of this, to strengthen your families together, to become iron sharpened iron friends that can really, really lock arms and walk along together. So I'm going to give you all of the links that I mentioned in the episode, in the show notes. I will give you a link to the Teach Them Diligently book that is a primer on biblical parenting, what God's word says about it and how you can start applying it. I will also give you a link to the Heart School book that is all about missional homeschooling and what that looks like within your home. I'll give you a link for getting your tickets for a Teach Them Diligently event. I cannot urge you strongly enough to join us there. And then I'll also give you a link to Teach Them Diligently 365, which is, like I noted, the best homeschool community on the planet. You would love it, and we would love to see you there. So I hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to talking to you again real soon.